What's the point? I need to go find the chat.
And we are live. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Yeah. So, sorry for the late start. It's been...
That's just how we roll.
An interesting morning, and yeah, pretty much this is a theme, apparently. Let me mute myself so I don't hear myself twice. The world doesn't eat two me's. That's just scary.
Double trouble.
Yep.
Walking down the street. Anyway.
Hello.
That was a mix of songs.
Hello, everybody out there in Intronet's land. Also, hi, Mom.
Mrs. Chris.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris's mom.
I don't know that that's how that works.
No, technically your baby Chris's mom.
I didn't marry my mother.
Well, I know what I meant. It's been a day.
Anyway, guys, so thanks for coming. This live chat is Cake or Death.
Brought to you by Monster, because we both got Monster.
Yeah, Cake or Death, rejecting Shadow.
Yeah.
Or also
Cake or Death. Cake or Death. Who gets the reference? Cake or Death?
I know Raven Dreamer does. Because when I shared the event, she posted a picture.
I love that skit. It's one of my favorites.
Guys, so yeah, I love Eddie anyway. So Joey and I were talking, and we're like, what should we talk about? And we noticed that there's like this common energy that's going around, and it's developing. Yeah, and each person that receives it's a little bit different. Like it's a different area of their life, which I'll talk about that in a second. But like, there's a lot of shadows bubbling up and kind of smacking you in the face right now.
Oh yeah.
Not that like subconscious kind of like under the sheet we can just ignore it, but like it's just smacking you in the face repeatedly. So
and
we wanted to talk about that.
Not just one either.
No,
one
like
after the other.
Right, and it seems like it's coming from every direction. So, yeah. I've got the girl strapped down today. You gotta. You never know. My husband told me to calm my tits, and this was the best way I knew how.
I like that meme that's like no and it's wiggly tits.
Yes. I once sent a picture to him. I was at my mom's house actually, and he was here in Ohio, and he was like, "Calm your tits." And I sent a picture of me making my boobs be like,
"Yeah,
I will not."
I will not.
Anyway,
though,
so you need a dance break? You can wait. Okay. So, all right. So we wanted to talk about the fact that it has been slapping us in the face, but also our reactions to it. Because I've seen people kind of being like, nope, this isn't happening. And it's like trying to ignore someone when they're like, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?
I've seen a lot of people who are like either inadvertently or not realizing that they're doing it, but they're wearing their shadow like a friggin' I don't know what. They're being honest about it without realizing they're being honest about their shadow.
And people normally tend to wear their shadow. I mean, it's
not
easier for other people to see yours, but
yeah,
it's especially heightened right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about that, Joey. What's some stuff that you've been noticing?
So we're coming up to the eclipse, and this is like one of these major astrological pains in the butt. But also, it's a good thing. It's a good thing in a lot of ways because depending on where, and it's between two Leos. Is that right?
Yeah,
which is always an interesting place to be.
And both times that we've had that, we've also had a solar eclipse. So we're in like a gateway right now.
And haven't we got retrogrades going on as well?
Yep.
I read this morning.
No, I think it starts the 12th or 11th.
There's more than one, isn't there? Isn't there like Mercury's going retrograde again soon, and something else is retrograding already? I can't remember which one it was that's retrograding.
I wouldn't be surprised. No, I know we're in the pre-shadow.
So we were talking about this because like we've talked about shadow work a lot, and I was thinking, and Chris was thinking, like, what happens when we reject it? Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What happens when we refuse to do the shadow work? And I think that's hugely obvious right now, because when people are kind of refusing to work with their shadow for one reason or another, in this kind of pre-eclipse, everything's going out with like, it's like a great big dustpan brush, and it's like you're not gonna be getting out of the way of it. It's just like you will deal with it, or it's, you know, you're gonna be wearing it like egg on your face. It's not so much we've talked about wearing shadow before, and that to me is when people react perhaps, and they're reacting one way because their shadow is another, but the reaction right now is making people's shadows like super obvious. Like there is no hiding it from it right now, and it's like you either deal with it or not. And we've looked at it last night. Where is it? My 12th house.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so basically, because of all the Leo stuff going on, and I believe just to give credit where credit is due, I believe I saw this on Dawn Champagne's video that she made recently. I'm fairly positive. I have seen other people speak about it, but I'm pretty sure she was like the main one that I saw. But basically, when you were born, whatever house that Leo was in, house, not sign, and not planet, whatever house that Leo was in is the part of your life that's probably the most affected by this right now. Where like there's a light being shown on it in minute detail.
And mine's in my freaking shadow house.
Yeah.
So shadow, more shadow, and more shadow. Do you want to be on the floor crying like a baby? Because that's what's going to happen. So yeah.
Yeah. So Pixie says, I've spent many years trying to hide my shadows. Now I'm ready to embrace and stand with it. Slow process, but the heaviness is getting lighter each day.
So I've been dealing with shadow after shadow recently because of this because of this astrological stuff, and because of my life changes and shift. I literally had to be just naming it, like naming every single shadow that's come to the fore, and then being like, how are we going to deal with it? It's more about the house, Courtney, rather than Leo ascending. Because I've got Leo in my Venus, I've got Leo in my Mars, I've got Leo everywhere. Like loads of Leo. All my fire is mostly Leo. So I've got tons of that, but it's more about the house if I'm understanding correctly.
So the thing is it wants to know where Leo was when you were born in your houses. The houses are basically like the horizon, the placement of everything when you were born. So every single sign, essentially, as far as I'm aware, should be in your house, your houses. So where is Leo? Because each house represents a part of your life, like, you know, like relationships or career or home life, or, you know what I mean? And so like wherever the Leo was in the houses is the part that's being the most heavily exposed, I guess you could say, right now, or it may feel like that.
Yeah, the houses are separate to like the planets and things. So
yeah, so planets are different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say something. Oh, you were saying about like the big dustpan sweeping it out, and that made me think of, you know, it's a bit like working with, and I'm sure lighter goddesses can do this too. I'll use it like this.
Lighter goddesses, what's
dark
that?
Goddess. But you get what we mean. It's a bit like working with a dark goddess sometimes, I think, this kind of energy, because it's, you know how like they'll smack you in the face with something, and then if you don't get it, they'll just push you off the cliff.
It is, but it isn't, because there's a lot, like with dark goddesses, it feels like I don't know what's the difference in dynamic, how to put this into English. So with dark goddesses, it's something, well, firstly, it's something that you usually go into and you know that you've gone into it.
Well,
So
and
it's,
most of the time you know the goddess as well. So
and
there's an element
yeah,
of trust there.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas this feels very much like anvils being dropped on from above, like dodging out the way.
You heard it here, folks. Joey is Wile E. Coyote.
Is that my buzzer? Or is that next door?
If it's next door, it's very loud. Also, if you guys hear sounds today, also, I apologize, any construction sounds, because they're working on the fire hydrant right next door. So you might hear some beeping. It is not me. It's them. Do you have to go get the door?
I don't know if that's me or not.
Your shadow is buzzing. Will you answer?
Yeah, that's what it actually is. Hang on, let me log in on my... I'd logged out of my iPad so it wouldn't ding the whole way through. Let me log back in.
So what are some things in chat that you guys have been experiencing lately? Like, has any of your stuff been getting pulled up?
There's nothing on my chat.
There's nothing on your chat.
Like message. Like if someone had gone out of the...
Oh, okay. Do you want to just go check?
Yeah.
Just go check.
Yeah.
It's going to drive you crazy if not. All right. Oh. Let us listen closely. Yeah, it might have been her. Good thing she checked then, huh? So, so childhood stuff is coming up. I see that. So now, once you find the house that it's in, you can look up like the wonders of Google, guys. You can enter in, like, for instance, yours is ninth house, and it will bring up everything that ninth house is about. And you can even go to multiple sites and look at it in detail, and then just take that information, that section that it's talking about, and apply it to, like,
next door
that you might have, issues that you might have with it. I was talking about how to find your what is this? Is this my hair? That's my hair. I was talking about how to find what the house represents. I mean, I can look it up too, but yeah.
That was next door, all that noise. No, it was next door.
It was next door?
All that noise, and it was next door. God, I can't record a video anymore, I swear. Yeah.
That was a very loud buzzer for next door.
I know, it's ridiculous. Ugh. Anyway, sorry, everybody. Yes. Sorry about that.
All right, so I'm talking about, let's see, ninth house.
Well, identity could be your personal philosophy.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's the thing is, I think it's more about like your placement in the world, because philosophy is kind of part of that too.
Yeah.
And even in this, I'm seeing like communication as a key word, and again, that's part of your placement in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Christina.
Okay, sorry about that. That was super unprofessional.
That
doesn't normally happen.
And then, never again, Joey. She's never coming back. No, she is, guys. She is. I wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Given that we're doing podcasts and things, it'd be really difficult.
Yeah, that would be awkward.
A little bit awkward. Teensy bit.
Yeah. But okay, so guys, if you don't know how to find your house either, like the Leo, if you don't know how to find your house, where are you right now? Are you at home?
I'm in a flat, so technically.
Well, that's your home.
It's not a house though.
Yes, that's true.
I'm in my 12th flat.
Your 12th flat. How many flats do you have, Joy? Each one
12.
represents a different part of my life.
Yeah, exactly. If only.
No, okay, so you guys can find that if you look up, if you enter in Google free natal chart, Astro Astrology should come up, something like that, like Cafe Astro. Click that. Put in your date of birth. Make sure you put the time because the time is important, and your location, and enter it through, and then it'll give you a chart and everything that you can see it. It'll even say, like with Roman numerals, the house numbers. So just look for Leo with that. Anyway, let's see. Oh, yay. Wonder Weirdness Witchcraft says, hello, ladies. I love getting home late from work and tuning into you too. It's 12:31 a.m. here.
Wow. Okay. Right. So I completely derailed us with all that nonsense. So I'm sorry about that. But we're talking about rejecting shadow. And
we were talking about dark goddess stuff. That's when you...
Yeah. Well, that was... Oh, I see. So when we engage with dark goddess energy, I hate the term dark goddess, but, for ease...
I don't hate it, but I think it's limiting. But I understand why we would need to use it in some situations to differentiate.
I guess. But there's kind of an expectancy. If you go into working with a dark goddess and you don't expect to get smacked on your backside, I think you're being completely naive at best. Because that's kind of what it's about. It's about being better, and it's kind of trial by fire and kind of getting rid of everything that doesn't serve you anymore, like burning all that off. I've talked about when the Morrigan was like, yeah, you need to burn all this. And she literally said to me, you need to burn all this. So the ground's fertile. And she wasn't kidding by, burn all this down. And... So there's kind of an element of, there was kind of an element of, well, at least I signed up for this. Whereas right now the energies are like, what? Who signed up for this? And there's some weird reactions to it right now as well. We've seen some weird responses to people's shadows because of the eclipse energies and everything that's going on. And there's been denial to the point of, but you're doing what your shadow is, but you're denying it whilst you're doing it. And okay.
Yeah, and this isn't a finger pointing kind of broadcast, just to clarify this, since we're talking about this. It's more because there isn't a wrong answer, and we've even said the dustpan's gonna get you regardless. So it all comes out in the wash, so you might as well just do it whatever way you're gonna do it. But I don't know. I just think that sometimes there's more struggle in it, and maybe you need that struggle. But I feel like right now with these crazy waves that are happening, it's better, like you said, just to name it, and sit with it, look it in the face, and just kind of go, all right, I know what you are, I see you. This is still happening around me. There's not a control thing there where I want to just stop you, but this is happening around me, and I know why. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking yesterday about why people would reject shadow, so we could go into this and have ideas about it. Because obviously, I can talk about some of the reasons that maybe I would, and Chris can talk about some of the reasons that maybe she would. But because we live in a death energy space, I think we're kind of on board with shadow work by now. It doesn't mean that it's easy, and it doesn't mean that we are always like, yes, it's fine, and we do it, and we kick its ass, and it's no problem. We still go kicking and screaming into the night with it. But there are some people that avoid it at all costs, and they'd rather sit where they are and benefit from whatever it is that they're benefiting from, or even if it's not really truly a benefit, but they perceive it as being a benefit. So it's easier not to deal with it for whatever reason. So what would that be? And where does that come from? That sort of energy. Like, why do people reject working with a shadow? And feel free to chime in, chat, and see if we're if you're
as
happy
always
to.
We fully welcome the chat to like get in on this topic. Like, share your experiences, share your thoughts,
because I'd be interested to see why people reject their shadow. Now, fear is the obvious one, which we've talked about at length recently. Like being afraid to deal with something because it's scary, and it means crying, and it means being angry, it means dealing with the emotional state, and it's easier not to. It's easier to come away from it.
There's also an element of like in that you won't endure.
Yeah.
That you're not enduring enough to deal with it, that it will destroy you essentially.
Yeah. And ultimately that's not true. We're all enduring. And if we feel that we get to the point where we feel we can't cope, there is always help available. So if it really gets bad, then there is help available, and there is always people to reach out to. Shadow hurts. People can't always expect pain being good for them, so to speak. Well, I've said in one of my videos that I think in the face of pain, we find out who we truly are. Because it's easy to be, it's easy to wear a mask when everything's going fine and everything's dandy and everything's chugging along just nicely. It's easy to be nice to people when things are great in your life. It's easy to be there for people when you've got no problems. It's easier. But when you're in a really bad situation, when you're in pain, I think you really do find out elements of yourself. And I've said before, there is no good or bad element to oneself, and sometimes there is the uglier traits of the self that we come across in these moments of pain, but they're just something to sort of make friends with, digest. If you want to improve on yourself in one way or another, you don't want to dwell in a negative space or whatever it is, then you get the opportunity to look in that mirror because of pain. And I don't think pain is innately bad for the self.
Yeah, I agree.
I call spiritual bypassing the urge or need to use spiritual practices to avoid dealing with painful feelings of all is love and light. Ugh, Michael. Yeah, I like spiritual bypassing as a phrase. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
The urge or need to, there's a lot of that actually. Essentially turning your spiritual practice into another mask. Well, I've talked about the fact that masks aren't inherently bad. I think in the spiritual practices, we've talked in the past that, you know, masks tend to get portrayed as, oh, they're wearing a mask, so they're lying. Whereas spirituality can actually be the shamanic practice of wearing different masks in order to know the self and that experience better. So I'm hesitant with the mask thing, but I really do like the idea of the spiritual bypassing, because I've seen a lot of that. I've seen a lot of spiritual bypassing, especially now, because people are like using their spirituality to distract from what's actually going on. And I talked to Chris about this in terms of visual representation. A lot of people present a visual spirituality. Technically, we live in a visual world. You know, there's Instagram, there's photographs, there's Facebook, there's things. And human beings are visual creatures, and I don't have anything against the sharing of you know, visual. I'm a visual person. But if you've ever seen some of my altar setups, they're aesthetically pleasing on purpose because that helps me get into a spiritual mindset. If things are a mess, #Virgo, I can't chill with it. You know, it has to, and quite often there's symmetry. Quite often there's numerology on both sides. So there'll be two.
Yeah, that's huge with me.
And so the visual thing can be really important. But on the flip side of this, it's like the Instagram mentality where people are taking pictures of everything all the time, and there's no substance. And I was saying at Lunasar that it felt Lunasar. I feel like Hermione every time I say Lunasar. It's Lunasar, not Luviosa. Anyway, I was saying this at Lunasar that I felt that the energy was with this fiery, destructive thing that was like there is no more room for pretty lies, and anything that you're pretending to be and presenting to the world like this is who you are and that's not aligning with who you actually are is going to get just swept out by this eclipse Lunasar energy, because there's no room for pretty lies. And I think that's what spiritual bypassing. Well, welcome to my world. Leo in your 12th is where I'm at. Shadow work. Things that are hidden.
It's yeah, essentially. So something that I'm thinking as I'm listening to you talking, one, that I wish I had ice cream. Secondly,
I've got some ice cream in the freezer.
Ugh, but it's too far away. So secondly, that I'm wondering if, okay, so you were talking about the aesthetics and everything, and like, for instance, altars and things, and how you like you'll build an environment as a sort of a trigger and the meaning there, and that, you know, there's a difference between doing that and then, you know, using something to avoid. And I was thinking, you know, they're kind of like a nest that you're building, and it's like you're just, instead of building like your ideal nest that you would love to have, that's you, that you would love to have, you're building a nest according to the limitations that you've accepted. You know what I'm saying?
Or limitations,
like the limitations that you think you have to, like the box that you think you have to fit in to be or do this, or, you know, like be happy, for instance, or something like that. But so you're building it according to essentially someone else, even though that's also an aspect of you, instead of building it according to you. Shadow work and ice cream. See, that's the right way to do it. Shakti knows.
Yeah. Trust me, I came on yesterday for all the ladies out there, so this is kind of adding to everything as well. Time of the month, yay. So we were talking about this as well in terms of it being a shadow of the cult of not belonging, which is something that I wrote an essay about, and then we talked about on the other chat. I think it was me and Chris, this other chat, feeling other. And we're talking about shadows that come from the cult of not belonging, and how that becomes what we just talked about, which is the presentation of being someone that you're not, in order to belong, in order to fit in order to gain acceptance, and it being a really, really dangerous, really unhealthy, and really, frankly, irritating way of going around pretending to be walking somebody else's path. And this irritates me on all kinds of levels.
And it even goes beyond that. It goes beyond walking someone's, like, for instance, when you say path, we think like spiritual path, but also like just in general, in different parts of your life, you know? You know, for instance, like you want to get a job in, I don't know, something that's maybe a lot more like a business type. So you automatically go, okay, so I have to cut my hair, and I have to do this and this, and I have to dress like this, you know, dress for the job you want kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what if the job you want isn't the job you are? Does that make sense? Kind of?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, in terms of taking that to a spiritual place is something that I've said before. I'm like, you could be denying the world of something really freaking important by copying somebody else's spiritual path and not walking your own. Like, if you can't be true to who you are, you might be denying the world from something it sorely needs. And people who have,
people don't focus on enough.
Yeah. And it's like a domino effect. If you are brave enough at core to be who you are, unabashed, without apology, I mean, not being a complete dick about it, but, you know, because that's something else. That's arrogance, and that's lording it over other people. That's not being comfortable in who you are. That's like trying to like jam people down the shame spiral or something.
It's a control thing, yeah.
Yeah, but if you are unabashedly yourself and you present yourself on video, and the way that I've done it in the past is I've cried my eyes out in videos. Like if something hurts and something is painful and I needed to talk about it, and I was like, you know what, I have a feeling that I need to do this on video because it's going to affect other people. So I will ugly cry on camera. It's a scary thing to do, trust me, but I did it. And that was unabashedly me. On the flip side of that, when I'm videoing myself and it's something silly and stupid, but I like the lightness of it, so we have balance on the channel, and I'm breaking into song because I do that. That's still unabashedly me. So that to me is how I do my best, because we all fall apart and we all don't present ourselves as honestly as we should all the time, because there is an expectation, and we all feel like we need to fit in and things like that, and we have to overcome that. But that's what I mean. It's like when you are living who you are at core, that's a really powerful thing, especially in a spiritual community where it inspires other people to be the same way. And I mean, by inspired to be the same way, it should be inspired to be them wholeheartedly, rather than inspire them to be copying and ripping you off, which is the shadow that we've talked about, which irritates me no end. No end.
Yeah. Oh crap, I just lost my point. I should have written it down.
Realness, authenticity, being who you are on video. Fiercely vulnerable, maybe.
No, I wasn't going there. I feel like people know the fiercely vulnerable quote by now.
I love the fiercely vulnerable quote. I will bring it up every live stream. I love it that
much. But there is something to that. I mean, being open. I mean, I wrote a blog post about, our wounds are like the exit holes, if you will, through which we can reach out and touch another person. And apparently I'm going super contrast goth, so let me just alter this really quick.
Mine's like that anyway, and there's not much I can do.
Hail problems. What are you gonna do?
Goth issues, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, there is something with that, with the, I don't know. If it's important, it'll come back.
Authenticity?
No, it was a specific point. It's okay. It'll come back if it's supposed to.
So now it's so vivid, says, and then people accuse you of attention seeking. I wish folks would realize that seeking attention is neutral, no ethical implications. If you're putting yourself out there in your truest self, it's not really about attention seeking. It doesn't require the approval of anybody else's attention. I have said in the past that I would I kept doing this even when not many people were watching. I've kept doing this even when I have more people watching. I will keep doing this if I have even more people watching, because ultimately this is who I am. This is what I believe in. I think it's important to be a voice, as Chris knows. This is a shadow for us both, and has been a thing that has come up for both of us, is being a voice, speaking from truth. And
I remember what I was going to say now.
Go for it.
You said that, and I was like, oh, right. So when you said that earlier, it made me think of when I was talking to a native elder that lives reasonably close, and I asked him, what if they don't get it? Because he travels around and he does talks and stuff by he'll make a sacred fire. He's a fire keeper, and he'll do talks with people, and workshops, I guess you could say. And one time after the workshop, I asked him, I was like, what if, don't you get nervous that they're not going to receive it? And this was 5 years ago. And he looked at me very calmly, with his freaking parade of ancestors behind him. And he said, if I speak to 100 people and one person gets it, that was worth speaking. and that people forget that.
Mm.
That, yeah, maybe the majority was like, oh, I don't like this, or oh, I don't need this, or maybe they were even, their shadow was poked, and so they don't think that you helped them, but you actually brought that to the foreground. You know, but you don't know. It's not for you to know. It's for you to speak.
So shadow poking is actually something I can talk about. Seeing as I was going to blog about it, and now my blog's blown up, and I'm trying to, I'm trying desperately to get the people to sort it out. But yeah, shadow poking is something I can talk about.
But essentially, I'll say, like, with the whole voice thing and my shadow and voicing my opinion more, that's what I keep telling myself is like 1 in 100. 1 in 100. That's like my little mantra.
Well, over the years, and I think it's true for everybody who puts themselves out there in any capacity of any kind, but over the years I've had some pretty horrible comments and some pretty nasty, hateful shit, and people have said to me, you know, why do you keep going when this happens, or when you have people taking your work and like pointing fingers and ridiculing you in Morrigan groups and shit. And I said, because I'll give you an example. One person came to me and said, actually, I'll give you two because I can give you a more organic example as well. One person came to me and told me that they were about to kill themselves, and they watched one of my raw videos, one of the ones that was me ugly crying that I mentioned earlier. And they emailed me and they're like, I know you don't know me, and I'm sorry if it's an imposition. They were very sorry to impose, but this saved my life. And then talked to me about what they were going through, and it was a similar thing that they'd survived to what I was talking about as abuse and things. And they said, and knowing someone, and I won't ever forget it, it was like knowing someone else has been through what I've been through, felt what I'm feeling, and survived it, and then spoken about it for other people, saved my life, because it made me realize I'm not by myself. I was like, that right there. Yeah. That right there is why I will never stop doing it. Because if you know, there are people that don't get anything, people who say I'm wrong in my spirituality, people who say, oh, you shouldn't talk about the Morrigan this way, that way, blah, blah, blah. But if one person in thousands, if it saved one life in thousands of thousands of people, there it is. That's why it's worth doing. And the other example that I was going to give is a more organic specific example, although I've had a few of these over the years, is that someone came to me and was like, someone told me I can't follow the Morrigan because I'm gay. And he was a young gay man. He was, you know, he probably hadn't been okay with or even out about his spirituality very long. So for them to be looking for spiritual guidance, enlightenment, comfort, or, you know, purpose, whatever you want, and he feeling that he'd been called by the Morrigan, and somebody, the first person presumably he ran into, told him and tried to shame him for being gay, and that he couldn't follow the Morrigan. And I was moving house at the time, and I was like, give me an hour. And I like stopped everything that I was doing, and I recorded a video right there and then. You can watch it. It's Morrigan and the LGBT community. And I was like, no, fuck this shit. Fuck that. I was like, I don't care who it is telling somebody they can't follow a goddess because they're gay, but fuck that shit, is the gist of it. It's more eloquent than that. I'm not feeling very eloquent today, but whatever. But that's important. Yeah. That there is important, because there are people who are putting and this is effectively their shadow, and using as rejecting other people out there onto the internet or wherever. They're using spirituality. This is a while back, the LGBT thing. This is an older experience. It's not a recent thing. But it's important to speak against that. Because like the man says, you know, evil only triumphs when good people do nothing. And I honestly feel like the evils of the world are shit people do. I don't believe in like all-encompassing God evil or anything like that, but I think sometimes people are capable of evil shit. And sometimes it's not even obligated, but I mean, obligated is kind of the wrong word. It's not like an obligation from like a sort of, it's like a sacred duty sort of thing, like to stand in the way of people who are basically using spirituality as a weapon to harm other people. And I feel like it is a sacred duty to stand up and speak out against stuff like that, because there are some things that we should not be silent about. And that's one of them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and again, I mean, I think it was on our last chat, I said something about giving someone else your leash, like your own leash that you hold to your power, like,
yeah,
and giving someone else it and being like, here, you know what to do with this. No one knows as good as you what to do with you.
Yeah.
And if you keep giving that lead away to someone else, then you're not going to be doing you. And that's another instance of like someone saying, you know, hey, no, you can't do this. Like, oh, I can't? Okay, well, here's my leash. You know what I mean? No, this is mine. I have me. Worry about yourself.
And that's them rejecting their shadow, to draw it back to the when people are doing that, that's them out and out rejecting to deal with their own shadow crap. That's them trying to control other people rather than healing themselves.
Well, because we try to control our surroundings instead of trying to set with and work with and control ourselves, essentially. Which brings us back to the whole surrounding yourself with a certain nest. And realizing what you can control and what you can't. In a lot of ways. And yes, we're talking to a magical community, which has also the ability to tap into things. But like, if we go with Asbjorn for a second here, if everything essentially weaves in through the mind, your perception is a big part of that. And if you perceive someone as having more power over you than you do, that's dangerous.
Well, it's like the Penzac. I think it's Christopher. Is it Christopher Penzac? The Witch's Shield. Is that Penzac? I'm pretty sure that's Penzac.
Yeah.
There's a quote in there that says, "If you think you are cursed, then you are, because you make it real." And I've always, that was such a powerful. I don't remember. Well, I remember bits of that book. It's a good book. But that one stayed with me. Like, if you think you are cursed, then you are, because your mind, your mental state, your emotional state, your spiritual vibration, your energy makes it real.
That's not necessarily to shun those who think that they are, because that doesn't take away from the potency of the fact that if you think you are, then you are. And it also doesn't take away the lesson there.
It doesn't matter where it comes from either.
Yeah.
The focus on where the curse actually comes from, that's the part that doesn't matter. Like, that's again looking outside of yourself. The part that matters is, okay, well, I feel like I've been cursed. And whether it's intuition and you have been, and some other witch somewhere has been up to shit, or whether it's a little bit of a worry and you've manifested it yourself, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what you're going to do. It's like the cleansing and the grounding and the getting your energy where it needs to be and getting your mental state back where it needs to be. That's the bit that matters. So there's that.
It's like you can sit and fight with yourself, or you can sit and talk with yourself and figure out a plan of action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which again is a common misconception with shadow work. I feel like people go in, you know, swords pulled, like, all right, we're going to defeat this shadow. I'm going to
that's not the way.
Cut it out of my life permanently. But that's not the thing.
There's a good point. There's one to talk about.
You can't cut that out of your life. It's you.
Yeah. So that's something else I've been seeing a lot of lately in this eclipse energy, is there's this kind of rejection of our own shadows. So we're blaming people outside of ourselves and then cutting people outside of our life out. There's been a lot of that recently. There's been a lot of that, well, you don't agree with me, therefore I'm going to block and delete you because F you. And
yeah, I have seen that a lot.
And you know that meme, which is like, sometimes people just need to leave your life because they're toxic, or they're not for your highest good. And I'm like, this is like spiritual elitism on crack. Like, your highest good is somehow better than the needs and feelings and emotional upsets of other people. So cut and block and delete because F them. How against humanity is that? Like, okay, you've had a problem with someone for a long time, then fair enough, be an adult and just walk away. But,
right. I think there's a line there with that too, because it's an umbrella statement.
Yeah.
Which we automatically have an issue with. Like, can you be more specific for the earth signs, please?
Yeah. Right. Can you give parameters for this?
Yeah. But I think that it also depends, because I mean, clearly if this person is abusive to you in some way and you have tried to tell them like, hey,
yeah,
I don't appreciate this, I'm not going to tolerate this, that is a different thing. Right? That's different than like having a disagreement of opinion in terms of something that does not directly affect your lives. You know what I mean? Like, it's not abuse to you. And being like, nope, bye.
So Angela asks, I've heard you talk about this a few times, and it makes me ask, what about people who push their disagreements on you? I mean, if they're constantly making unwelcome comments on your posts, etc. Well, the thing about it, the social media world is, firstly, it depends who it is, who is making unwelcome comments. The first thing I would say, given that we're rejecting shadow, though, is why are their comments unwelcome? Are they poking your shadow? Are they teaching something you need to learn about? Because sometimes people who make us feel uncomfortable are in our lives for a reason. And the reason that they're making us feel uncomfortable is there's something there that we need to learn. Because people coming into our lives isn't necessarily all good, sparkly, amazing, wondrous Chris's. Sometimes you have awful people come into your life and you're like, ugh. And yeah, it can be annoying. It can be annoying as fuck. And I tell you what, I have to deal with the same shadow over and over and over again with different people who irritate the hell out of me doing the same shit as the.
And the shadow is still not gone.
No.
You don't just get rid of it. Yeah.
No, and it keeps coming back. So first thing to think about is, why is that uncomfortable for you? Why does that disagreement make you? Is it just that someone is disagreeing with you all the time and you'd feel like you're being belittled in some way? And
thinking about this, taking that first step doesn't mean don't delete them, do delete them. That has no, like, this is a separate thing entirely. The first reaction should be, why does this upset me?
Yeah.
And have an inner monologue.
Yeah.
Then after you know that reason,
okay,
an informed decision. You know what I mean?
A lot of it is shaming because about what I believe, because I don't believe what they believe. So first question is then, are you secure in your belief? Like, is there constant doubting bringing forward a shadow in yourself that you doubt something somewhere in your own path? That would be my first thought.
If that is the case, it's human. You know,
there's nothing wrong with any of that.
Wants to find the right answer or like save face. And I'm not saying about you, Angela, but I'm just saying in general, like, everyone wants to give like the most appropriate answer, but what is the real answer? Because this is you. This is this is you. So,
and you don't have to answer here. It's just something to think about.
No.
Also,
but essentially, like, yeah, that would be the first thing is that, and then also my question would be, have you made it clear to them that you were feeling disrespected? Because the thing is a lot of people will feel it, but they don't verbalize it. And if they do verbalize it, they waited so long that it just spills out in an explosion, and then you insult them as well. So it's not productive at all. So, you know, I would also say, have you asked them very respectfully, like, look, this is my line. I feel like I am being disrespected and shamed for what I believe. I do not do that with you. Please do not do it with me. And if you continue to do so, then I will have to cut ties. That isn't a matter of disagreements. That's a matter of respect.
Yeah. And you can start with something as simple as, we don't all have to believe the same thing. Live and let live. And if they keep doing it, because that's a line. We don't all have to believe the same thing. Live and let live. And I've tried that before. And I'll give you an example from my life that I had with this pretty much exact thing. And this was against somebody who was atheistic. And they knew that I was spiritual and all the rest of it. And they started sharing constant atheism posts about people who believed in any kind of spiritual God were basically devolved. like they were de-evolving back into apes. And this was after many, 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 many similar posts. And I was just getting to the point where I was like, this is so offensive. Like, just because someone doesn't believe the same or doesn't believe the same thing that you do or don't believe in doesn't make them stupid. Like, oh, and this person was highly confrontational about it. There was no talking to them about it. So I unfollowed, but didn't delete at that point. So I unfollowed, so I wasn't seeing it. So there's something you can do if like, you know, you're getting a load of offensive posts, but for say it's a family member and you really don't want the grief that comes with like deleting a family member, but their posts are driving you up the wall, then just unfollow, and then you don't see it. Now,
and the interesting thing about that too, I want to interject really quick. So if you unfollow that person, speaking from someone that doesn't talk to like 80% of their siblings, so if you unfollow that person and you realize down the line when you run into their profile again that it's been really nice not having that around. Like, not really nice, like content to live in my cloud, but like just like there's a lot more freedom in your life. Like there's a releasing of the binding there.
Yeah.
Then delete them if you want. Like, and if you don't, fine, leave them there. But for me, there was a certain point where after not seeing them and I ran back into them, I was like, you know what? You don't really add a lot.
Yep.
And what you do add is something that I don't care to have.
Yep.
Which is, you know, and I think that isn't a matter of you've said something and it offends me, so I'm leaving.
The knee-jerk
that
reaction.
is me like sitting with it and kind of giving it time and going, nope, this is a thing. So, and then releasing it. So, you know, that's not for everyone. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Right? You don't have to do anything we fucking say. But
oh God, no.
But for me, I came to a point where I realized after not having them in my feed, I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, there is a knee-jerk reaction thing going on in this eclipse energy as well, which is definitely indicative of shadow.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a fire sign. Leo is fire. It's passion. It's the showman, even, which I didn't even think about that, but that's drama, totally. Yeah. So Leo is like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Leos. I do. But also, like, Leos are known as being the actress or the actor. They're very, you know, they're very passionate and they're very creative.
No wonder there's no falsehood. Yeah. If you think about it, it's no wonder this eclipse energy is refusing to let you be an actor anymore. You are not allowed to be an actor. Anyway, in your own life anymore because of the eclipse energy coinciding with that showman. Like, no, you don't get to be a showman. No. If you're not who you're pretending to be, forget it. Like, stop acting, start being. The end. And that's kind of what this energy is all about, like verbatim.
Like, just be you.
Yeah.
In the last few days, I've had discussions with a couple people that both are like.
Oh, she's frozen. Oh dear. Come back, Chris. Come on. Come back, Chris. Come on. Come on. Come back. Oh. I was doing an interlude. I was trying to do an interlude. I was trying to keep you all entertained. We're just waiting for Chris. It's all gonna be fine. Oh, technology. we can jingle all day. Come on, Chris. Come back. Chris, you broke it. Yeah. Intermission music. Yeah. Basically. Chris, come back. Come back. Come back. Come back. Chris, please come back. It says she's live. And oh. Come on, Chris. Come back. Come back to the chat. Come back, Chris. Come back, Chris. Come back. Come back, Chris. Come back. The flux is calling you. Yeah. Come back. Hi, Luna. We're trying to pull Chris back from the other side. Hello. It's me. No? Retrograde shadow strikes again. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I will load up Facebook in case she's screaming blue murder on there. Hang on. All night long, all night long, all night. Come back, Chris, come back. Come back, Chris. PC rebooted on the way back. We shall keep singing though, because you know she's in the Upside Down. Oh, good call. Can't wait to watch some more of that. Such a good show. Come back, Chris. Come back. No. Singing clearly isn't working. Okay. How are you, chat? How is everybody? This is going to make for an interesting bit in the middle. Poof, indeed, Kathy. Poof. Maybe if I try the teleportation thing, like, no, that didn't work either. Maybe we need a summoning one, like. No, nothing. Okay. I'll talk about some shadow stuff then, I guess, guys, for a minute while we're waiting on Chris to come back. Yeah. Are you taking requests? What kind of requests? For videos? I can take video requests for both me and Chris. It's not a problem. I owe Chris one on my channel because I had to cancel this week. So yeah, we can take requests. Those were sucking songs. I try to suck the energy of Chris. Oh, for songs? Well, it depends. It depends if I know it. I was trying to, yeah, you know, sucking. You have been sucked across the void.
I heard Noah calling while I was in the Great Divide, and I figured I would come back.
Yeah. Also, Magpie summoned you with 5 cups of Tim Horton coffee and arranged them into a pentagram.
That legit would work.
Yeah. It worked. Yeah, there you go. I've been singing, just so you know, I've been singing to chat. We've not been discussing anything worthwhile.
I think I'm going to have to put a new power supply in my computer because it's just been shutting down on its own lately. And then some of the drives are acting weird, so yeah. Gonna have to release another Kraken inside my tower.
Moths and wasps as insects is meant to be freaking wasps. I don't mind moths, but wasp. So I can tell you a story about
what?
Wasps. Wasps and moths are messengers that Christina has had. So I've had both of those as messengers of the Morrigan. I've got videos and I would have blog posts, which I think I've managed to save them all now if I can't get my actual blog back. So I will republish them all, which will be irritating as all hell, but I will do it, about moths. And so I've talked about moths at length, but wasps. So wasps is a warrior queen energy. And there's a sisterhood thing with wasps as well, which is really interesting. Because mostly we just think about wasps as being, you know, evil little arseholes. But there is a really interesting...
I think they're very tenacious, for one.
If you look into their symbology, they're very Morrigan-esque. There's a definite feminine queen warrior energy to them, and they're enduring, which is something we've talked about. So when I was having moments of, and it happened to me 2 or 3 times, when I was having moments of pure despair, and I felt like Morrigan was in one of her quiet phases, which she does. If people don't know this about Morrigan and dark goddesses in general, they'll let you sit with things, and they'll basically take a back seat while you're dealing with it, and they'll be like, lesson, back seat.
Yeah,
and it freaks people out. It freaks some people out.
Where did you go? What's going on? Why is it so quiet? Hello?
I've had all of these messages, and now 3 months of nothing. What's going on? Has she left? And so it was in one of those times, and I was feeling very down about, I can't remember what. And I was in front of the altar, and I was crying I was doing my ugly cry and screaming and death screaming in front of the altar, like, I need you. I need to know that you're here. And the window was open, but the curtains were shut. And a wasp flew in through the window, flew up over the curtain rail, flew down, flew around the altar slowly, and then flew right back up over the curtains, over the curtain rail, and back out the window, which is weird behavior for a wasp to be like, yes, I'm just totally coming over the curtain and round the altar. And it was Morrigan. And that happened to me 2 or 3 times when I was in moments of pure despair, and I needed her. My legs are all tingling now because I've said it, but surefire thing. But Morrigan's listening, by the way. Yeah, if I know that Morrigan approves of something, all my legs tingle all the way up. It's weird. And in those moments, it was like being reminded to be tenacious. Like, yeah, and this applies to shadow work as well. This fucking sucks. This hurts. This stings. This tears apart. Hold in. Keep being tenacious. Cry when you need to. Scream when you need to. Talk when you need to. Identify what's going on. Be truthful for it. Feel it. But you will endure. And you are much more enduring. You are much more tenacious than you give yourself credit for. And a lot of people don't give themselves the credit where credit's due. I've spoken to people where they're like, who come to me because they know about my past. They know that I've survived sexual abuse, and the people come to me and they will say that they have survived it as children and whatnot, and they're like, I can't get over this part of the shadow. I'm like, firstly, you need to acknowledge what you survived. Like, take that warrior, and you don't even have to call it survivor if you don't want. You can be like warrior or whatever word empowers you with it, because I will never, ever, 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 ever use the victim word, because I think that's disempowering to people who've survived. We are not victims of something. If anything, we are survivors of something because we survived it. And I would go on further and call it like a warrior or something really empowering, and take a little bit of time and pride in the endurance, in the tenacity. And so that's something that I do talk about, and I think is really important, that sometimes when the things that we gain from engaging with shadow work may not be obvious to us initially. And that's something that's happened a lot recently. Like, people don't realize or don't give themselves credit for what they have survived.
Yeah. I'm going to speak on the moth thing as well for a second, because I also have moths. So the reason that my business logo is a death head moth is because when I was going through the huge change that I went through for like 2 years with my father's death, and then like essentially the death of a career of 8 years, and a lot of other stuff. And I was in mourning, and I was questioning everything, who I was, everything that I've known. The moth came to me, the death head moth specifically. And also white moths are a thing as well. And I think that's, again, an overlap where like Babe and Hell kind of have a
sisters. Yeah. Oh, shivers all up the legs again. Yeah.
But the reason that is my logo now is because so my friend actually left this pen. You guys can see that, which is a death head moth. It's a hair pen at my house, and it was a turning point in everything. And it wasn't her leaving the pen that was, but I've known this friend since we were tiny. She's my hip, basically. And she came up to visit me because I needed a reminder of who I was. And in her visit, I think that changed my whole perspective on things. It let me find sturdy ground again. And when she left that accidentally. Quote unquote.
Inverted commas. Yeah.
Yes. And she also left a deck, which I don't have next to me. But when she was driving back, because there's 500 miles between us, when she was driving back, I messaged her a picture of the deck and the moth. And I was like, hey, you forgot these. And she's like, no, I didn't have them. And so I liked the picture that I took so much that I put it on my screen on my phone. And it stayed there for months. I'm talking to people trying to figure out what my logo should be. And every day I'm looking at this moth. Every single day, multiple times. And then finally I look it up and I realize that the representation of transition and death and something that is seen yet untouchable, you know, that is...
I'll tell you something else as well that may be relevant to this. When I was getting a lot of moth work, like a lot of Dave work, the death head moth in particular was coming up along this phrase, memento mori, which is remember you too must die, remember that you have to die, and that's really relevant to you being a death midwife. So again, this was a Bave thing for me, but the Bave and Hell crossover is insane.
Yeah, it is. It's still like, it shocks us still every time we find something like, really? Okay. But yeah, the death head moth and the death card, the tarot, every time I do like the traditional Rider-Waite and everything, every time I work with that, I think for a steady year and a half at least, the death card would be in the spread every freaking time. And that combined with the memento mori sentiment and a hell and being a death midwife, and like there's an element of my mom says transmutation and transition. It's a changing of things. So I would also say onto that, Christina, what is changing? What needs to die? So that you can live.
Yeah. And being tenacious in that process. Like if you're getting moths, and the thing that strikes me is moth feels like it's the moon side of yourself, and wasp feels like it's the solar aspects of yourself. So wasp feels like it might be your waking life. Like the you need to be tenacious in your waking life, in the everyday. There might be situations around you that are causing you drama and stress and all the rest of it. It feels like maybe it's a change in like working environment or housing environment or something like that in the waking life. And then the moon aspect, the dreaming aspect, the night aspect, the spiritual aspect feels like the moth to me. It feels like you've got this balance being presented to you in like insect form. Like it feels like a scales. Like, well, you need to balance.
It's literally like I said, the sentiment of what must die so that you can live. Like it's both, or what must live so that you can die, or you know what I mean? Like you must live so that they can die. There's a balance there, and they're one and the same. Even we can go deeper on that.
Yeah, you can't. There's a feeling like you mustn't cocoon too much as well. Like the wasp energy counterbalances that sort of introvertedness that often comes with moth energy, because moth energy feels to me to be quite introverted in a lot of ways, because you have the cocooning and the transformation and the transition, but there is that cocooning that happens for that to be possible. But if have wasp in opposition kind of suggests to me like you don't want to do that too much.
Yes, I mean, I hope you don't care, but I had them in my hand.
No.
Even these are two opposites. It's like, look at all these things I can have, but also look at all these things I can lose. It's exact polar opposite, like just the energy of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with like moon and sun and the balance that needs to be struck.
So yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so rejecting shadow.
Mm-hmm. I can talk about personally rejecting shadow if it helps.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm also going to open it up because we got a little over 30 minutes left in a broadcast. So I'm also going to open it up officially and say, like, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, like, go ahead and put it in chat and ask.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I'm all by myself still, though. I don't know how. I can probably stay a bit longer. So.
By herself.
All by myself. Don't want to be all by myself anymore. Anyway, that kind of went southern somewhere in the middle. That was weird. I'm channeling Chris. Anyway, so for me, rejecting shadow has often been self-doubt related. So we've kind of talked about that some people, although I will mention this in a bit more depth because I was going to talk about this, that I feel like some people do reject their shadow because they are benefiting from not rejecting it. I think there are people who are happier to live in their shadow, whatever it might be, because they're getting some kind of gain. And it can be like financial gain, it can be acceptance gain, it can be popularity gain, it can be whatever. And I think there are people who purposefully don't deal with their own like inner shadow because to admit that they're going through that and they're not being true to themselves means that they would lose the benefit of something which is easier than what they'd gain from doing all the shadow work and becoming truer to themselves, which would be truer, but not easier. So I think there is an element of that at work right now in the eclipse energy. People taking is a key indicator of this, like unabashedly taking from other people's spiritual practice or whatever it is. And there's been that.
And this is not one. This is multiple instances in multiple different ways.
Yeah.
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 And it's a confidence. It's a easier thing.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to read this quote that Magpie shared really quick because someone mentioned it. Who was it? Who mentioned the quote? Now it's so vivid. Mentioned it earlier, but then Magpie found it. Thank you, Magpie. And it says, "You see this little hole? This moth's just about to emerge. It's in there right now, struggling. It's digging its way through the thick hide of the cocoon. Now, I could help it. Take my knife, gently widen the opening, and the moth would be free. But it would be too weak to survive.
Oh, I love that.
Struggle is nature's way of strengthening it. Now, this is the second time you've asked me for your drugs back. Ask me again, and it's yours." And that's from Locke, which is off of Lost.
I love that. I've heard that before. So Pixie asks, is there a difference in rejecting shadows versus walls of protection? I'm having problems separating the two. What are you protecting yourself from in that instance would be my first question. Don't be making noises, iPad. Shush.
Well, okay, so a difference in rejecting shadow versus walls of protection. So the thing is and like I could give you like a really clear answer from my point, but this is something that you have to determine. But I will say that if you sit with it and there's this little voice in the back of your head going, "We're not that. We won't do this, but we won't survive." Like that urgency thing right there, that like tone of voice that I just used, that's shadow rejecting. And also, even protecting oneself sometimes can still be rejecting shadow. Like they can be one and the same.
Yeah, there doesn't have to be a separation between the two. It's true. My key thought is what are you protecting yourself from in terms of why are you afraid to be vulnerable with something? Because the vulnerable and the afraid of being vulnerable feels like it's the shadow that melds between protection and shadow work. So
no.
What is it today? Is it just like technology irritate Joey day?
Oh, hi, Samantha. We've had a door buzzer next door. My computer has dropped off, and now she's getting a phone call.
I'm not even getting a phone call. It's not for me. It's for missing Asbjorn.
Jeez.
And it's going through my iPad for reasons unknown to me. Why? Okay. Whatever. You know what? iPad, you're going off. I'm going to power you off. You keep making noises. Go to sleep.
You're grounded, iPad. You're grounded.
So the thing that I would so vulnerability and shadow, to me, if you like, you're trying to protect yourself from something, that's just there's a vulnerability there. And what the vulnerability is depends on whether or not it's shadow or not. So if you're in a vulnerable spot and you don't want to be letting in people that are not bringing something to the table in order to help you, and they're there to take from you for whatever reason, you know, people who prey on pain and whatnot, they exist. And if you're protecting yourself from that situation, that's being careful with your emotions and your environment and the people surrounding you and things like that. If you're afraid to be vulnerable because you're worried about what people think about you, you're worried how you're going to come off, you're worried about the impact it will have, that's more.
I feel like this is another case of what we talked about earlier, where, like, first of all, sit with it and see why it's poking your shadow. Mm-hmm. Is it poking it because of something like that, or is it poking it because of, like, they're not adding anything? If you sat with it for a while and then you still are like, what do they add to my life? Then, like, that's your answer.
Journaling can really help with this as well. If when it's all up here, if it's freaking you out and you can't think straight, just write it all down, get it all out of your head so it's there in front of you.
Also, if you're not someone who journals a lot, music helps me. Mm-hmm. If you just put a bunch of music on and just, like, sing it out, if there's some part of making it external that makes it easier to analyze and examine. What songs are the ones that you feel the hardest right now? Look at those lyrics. Look at that energy. Feel that mood. You know what I mean? And step into it and then see why. Because if you continue to look at it from a distance and kind of, like, try to observe and categorize it, you'll never truly know it to do so. You know what I mean? If you even want to categorize it, because that's a whole other thing. Also, Joey, there was a question directly under that I want you to address, because I feel like you would
the lunar flower one.
It should be directly under Pixies.
I don't know if this is appropriate to ask here, but here I go. I feel like I'm rejecting my shadows subconsciously. My body disassociates, like I can't remember something, but my mind can't recall any advice. Okay.
She's, like, mentally blacking it out from herself, essentially.
Okay. So it's like being so overwhelmed that you're having a physical reaction to certain stimuli, but your mind isn't. Okay.
Well, I could say something. If you're...
Okay. Well, my first thought would be aware of the stimuli that is causing you to have that reaction, and you can sit in that feeling if you need to, and you can document that feeling. I do a lot of writing down because that helps me, but that's how I would, especially if your mind isn't, like, basically connecting the dots, I would write it down from my point of view. So you have an emotional reaction, and looking around at the time, what was going on at that point in time that caused the emotional reaction. What does the emotional reaction feel like? What does is your body kind of telling you? The way in which your body reacts, like the pains you feel, the shakes you get, can often be indicative of what's actually going on, because whilst you can't consciously pull it up, everything is already connected. So subconsciously you might be getting pains in a certain area that is relevant to the shadow that you are feeling, perhaps. It depends whether we feel it's a memory, like a specific memory that's causing the physical reaction, or if it's a general shadow. That's also really important, because that's a kind of reaction people do get to repress memory, which is something different to repress shadow. They're interwoven in ways, But repressed memory of something traumatic is a very delicate situation that you may or may not want to seek outside counsel for.
Yeah.
Because those can be really freaking traumatic in terms of like when they come surfacing up. Because there are things to this day that I had repressed about from my childhood that will come up in dreams, and that's a repressed memory thing rather than a repressed shadow thing, and that can often require a little bit of help. But if it's a repressed shadow, then again, you're taking into account how your body's reacting, the stimuli, and kind of piecing it together like a puzzle. What were you going to suggest?
So I have two things. One is that the first thing that came to me is something that my mom used to say, and I learned, and she's here watching now. But she had a dream, and she has a video on here about it, but she had a dream speaking to the four grandmothers, the grandmothers of the four directions. And they were sitting at a council fire, and she could never hear them. So, like, when she woke up, she wouldn't be able to remember what the hell they were saying. She knew it was really important, but that's all she could. And eventually, over time, she would start to get a little bit more and a little bit more. And I believe that when we are sleeping, our dreams, spirit is working with us to help us heal. Whatever form that of spirit you want to say that is. And so I think on one element, just because you can't remember it in your waking right now doesn't mean that you're not working on it. Because in your sleep, they could be working with you. Especially if you wake up and you feel like you haven't really slept that much. Like, that's how I always know, like, I've been doing a lot of work. I mean, obviously, like, health stuff aside, like if you're having health issues where you can't sleep, then that's a different thing. But like if you don't feel perfectly fine and you're waking up like, whoa, I feel like I didn't even lay down, you're doing dream work. Spirit is helping you, doing energy work with you, helping you heal. The other thing is that if you have a friend that is able to hold space in a healthy way, that is able to be unbiased, but also loving at the same time. Talk to them. Use them as that sounding board, that mirror, because that is irreplaceable in a good friend, whether they're a family member or not. That is irreplaceable. And that is another way to do it too, because the more you talk with someone in that situation, someone like that, the more pieces come out and you don't even realize that they're coming out. And also they may even, because they're holding space and truly listening instead of like listening while doing something else, because they're doing that, they may even be able to pick up and draw lines that you haven't, and then mirror that back to you and you go, oh crap, that is what happened. That is how I felt. That does make sense. And explore it further. So essentially, like, a friend that can hold space for you in that way can help you dig. So those are my 2 points.
Which is what Chris does for me. And I do for Chris, hopefully.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah.
But now, like, stressing, they have to be healthy, loving, unbiased. You know what I mean? Like,
I want to address this.
Space.
So Pixie Juice says, pain of the memories, want to heal and move forward. So I said something in one of my blog posts, and I think this might help you. I said in one of my blog posts, it might even have been a moth. In fact, it was a moth one, synchronicity, which is we are the memories that we carry with us. I don't think that we should seek to heal memories, because ultimately memories are parts of the building blocks that make us who we are. And memories can be goddamn awful. And they can, we may have to get to a point where we don't constantly think and feel about certain memories all the time. Otherwise we forget to live and we get depressed and things like that. But ultimately, there is always a lesson of self within memory. And the memories that we take with us become part of our makeup in a way. It's like painting the ashes on our faces. When we paint our faces with the ashes of the memories that hurt and harmed us,
or with death paint that I have,
we take that with us on that spiritual journey. It's not something to be healed beyond. It is something to be made peace with, perhaps, the more difficult elements, the more painful elements, and then to take the part of that memory which helps us in some way. So for me, I have some horrendous memories. I'm a survivor. But I can look back at key points in those memories and think, I was strong, I endured, I survived. And, you know, at the point of crisis, I protected my sister at great personal risk and at great personal cost. And that was a horrifying memory to me. It gives me nightmares to this day. But there is an element of that memory which has gone into making who I am. Like, I know that I endured, I know that I survived. I know that in the face of somebody who could have beaten 2 bells out of me, I would have like launched myself at them if they'd have come one step closer to my sister. I know these things about myself. And that to me isn't something to be healed beyond. That is just a part of who I am.
Yeah. I will also add to that let's see, how was it actually worded? Okay, pain of the memories, want to heal and move forward. So I hear you there, but I'm also going to add in, be careful of the move forward part.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can become so goal-oriented, and as a society, we're trained to do that. But we can become so goal-oriented and rushing ourselves that it becomes like a catch-22. You can't rush something like this. Like it happens as it happens. And if you're doing work, you're doing work. But if you're like focused on this one, like, I need one day to be now, so we can just get this over with. Did you hear that? So we can just get this over with. It's never over with. It's
a part of who you are. It's a part of self that you're talking to, and that, it's like self-rejection or belittlement. Like, I need to be outside of this part of myself. No, you need to sit in that part of yourself. And okay, so I will address that. So Samantha asked about what suggestions you can give me for working with shadow of feeling like I don't deserve nice things and success. We did a whole live chat about that, which is what was it called, Chris? The self-sabotage chat.
The imposter syndrome?
Yeah. Okay, we did. I'm not sure which channel it's on. It's either on mine or Chris's, and we talked about imposter syndrome, which is exactly that you feel like you don't deserve nice things. We've got a whole 2 hours about how to deal with it.
There is a playlist on my channel, if you just scroll down the main page, that will hold both Joey and I any live chat we've done. Like, period.
That's Capricorn.
Yeah, I did that because it's just easier.
Also, we were asked if we can do a live chat about Dark Goddess.
What would you guys like to know about Dark Goddess? Because I feel like we touch on that in different areas a lot. So if there's anything specific you're wanting us to talk about, like, please let us know.
We can do a Hell versus Bave Gothoff or something.
They're gonna team up against the world. Are you kidding me?
I know. I just meant compare and contrast, but I thought Gothoff was funnier. Yeah. We can compare Hell and Bave if you like on the next chat.
Yeah, I know people ask me to talk about Hell more too, so we could do that.
How about that?
Yeah. Hell and Bave. Oh my God, can we call it Deathmatch? Get it?
Yes. 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 That works on so many levels.
I know.
It's like they're matched. They're like the same. It feels like Blind Date with Death Goddesses. So the first question is,
if we went out to eat, where would we go?
The underworld. Anyway. The graveyard. Okay. So yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. And I like Magpie says the work is to do the work. Yeah, essentially.
It's to make friends with yourself, though. It's not to be looking at it as a road to being better. It's an internal working to being friends with yourself and like taking care of yourself. Ultimately, shadow work is self-love. That's the bit that people don't realize.
Right.
Like, it's a form of self-love. It's not all I don't know. People treat
the blog I wrote, we're learning to love the unloved, which is us. What we think is unlovable. We're learning to love us.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like I missed it.
Goddess.
Or maybe not. Yes. Death Goddess match, one night only. No, it's like our life. It's
yeah. Pretty much is our life. Any more questions before we round up?
I will read this. It's not a question, but I do find it interesting. I think other people would like it too. I'm having like issues with my straps and my
are you having party tits? Are they freeing themselves?
Yeah, they're eating my necklace and I couldn't move. Okay. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Snow Orchid said, I'm currently doing a lot of dream study and mapping my dream landscapes, symbols, reoccurring themes, etc. This has been helping me uncover shadows of myself and my past. Yeah. So dream work is like...
I nearly mentioned this, but I didn't. I'm not sure why I didn't. Carry on.
I don't know. Well, I know we were talking about dream work, and I know you mentioned that we did a live chat in reference to that, but I wanted people to know about like the landscapes and the symbols, because a lot of people don't really talk about landscapes.
True.
There's a reason that there are spots when you go journeying, whether that is dream work or not, that are very similar, and a lot of people find them. They're landmarks.
Oh, school. Okay? Oh,
yeah.
God, the amount of times I've dreamt about school.
There's key things like bridges or like the world tree, whatever you want to call it. Because that tree goes through all kinds of things. You know, it could even be like the Kabbalah and stuff, the shape of it. So,
the water.
The water. The Stygian Sea, amniotic fluid water. Beaches, caves. The forest, like a hilly forest.
Yeah.
There's these key things because I think the worlds blend, they overlap, you know what I mean? And I say plural because I mean more than two. And I think that that's also something that, since we're talking about dream work and kind of like, you know, the fact that while you're sleeping you can be healing, like, and we're also talking about authenticity and having something repeated outside of you in some situations. That's another instance where like sometimes that's just a part of like how our brains work and the things that we use to help us heal. So I figured I'd just bring that in. But yeah, so like learn your landscapes, learn your landmarks, learn the things that feel like home to you, and through that you can learn more about yourself. What do they mean? What do they represent? And
the personal interpretation, the perspective that you have on any given landscape is going to be entirely your own. So what a school means to me isn't going to be what a school means to people in chat. What a cave means to us isn't going to mean what a cave means in chat. And be okay with the fact that your personal perspective is what's going to key you into your own shadow work. And you're welcome, Pixie.
Yeah, so Pixie, you ended that comment with, we'll continue to work on myself no matter how emotionally exhausting shadow work can be. So I also want to say too that part of shadow work can also be self-love. So
did Joey not say that? Did Joey not say that 15 minutes ago?
Did you? My bad, dog. I feel like it sounded familiar, but we say so much of the same shit that I'm like, maybe I just thought it.
That's the point we're at now.
Yeah.
My mind, your mind.
Oh my God, guys. I was driving last night and a fox ran across the front and then my ear went silent and I instantly was like, Joey, what's going on? Are you okay?
It was 1 a.m. It was interesting. I was like, what? I'm good.
You could have been dreaming shit. I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
Let's see. We'll continue. Yeah. So basically though, like, you know, like she said, the self-love shadow, just like do your shadow work. It can be intense, guys, but also like take time to let yourself rest because it's okay. When I was mourning and stuff, I think the ritual baths saved me so much. Because I was able to, yeah.
All right, carry on. I just want to read what Snow.
I'm about to be done anyway with this. Okay. I was just gonna say, because the ritual baths allowed me to allow myself to be, which goes into the whole moving forward thing as well. Like sometimes you just need to allow yourself to be and not do anything and not hold yourself to any standards. As a Capricorn, I fully understand this because I'm always like, I got 50 things to do. All right, I got one off the list. Now I got 5 more things to do, you know, back on the list. And so if I kept listening and didn't just rest, I would be working all the time. So you have to know when to just be.
I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest at the end of this video, seeing as we're approaching the end.
Are we both taking notes to the side so we don't forget things?
Yeah, yeah.
Is this happening right now? Okay.
Hashtag Earth sign, yeah. So I talked in a recent blog post, which I'll try and get back on in some other form, but there is no I deserve. So what I want to say about that is, in modern life, we often think, oh, well, I deserve X, Y, and Z. And what the truth of it is working with shadow is shifting I deserve. So sometimes we go through situations, we do all the hard work, and we don't get what it is we think we want. And instead we get a lesson of what we need. So with the idea of rejecting shadow, shift the I deserve. Shift it from the I deserve outside of yourself to the I deserve within yourself. So instead of saying, I deserve this house, I deserve their respect, I deserve this popularity, I deserve this many viewers, shift it inside yourself. I deserve to be my friend. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be heard. I deserve the things that I need inside myself instead of the stuff that is outside of ourselves. So shift the I deserve, and instead of rejecting your shadow, you're accepting your shadow, and then you come to a place of self-love. Just preaching at me.
Rich! I deserve to be my friend. For real. Yeah. Wholeheartedly agree.
Oh! Joanna DeVoe, I deserve to be heard.
Yes.
Hello, Joanna.
Yeah. Yes, I deserve to be heard. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be happy. That's another one too. Because people were like, oh, well, you can only get so much, so happy because we haven't built this up. We don't deserve this yet. And like, even with money, like we'll be like, oh yeah, one day I want all this money to be able to do what I want. But if you don't tap in and go, all right, well, I deserve to live comfortably. I deserve to be able to travel the world. You know what I mean? Like I deserve to experience.
Yeah, I was going to say, I deserve the experiences that money can.
You know what I mean?
Bring
so
to me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that when you own a business too, you have to work around with that.
Oh yeah,
the self-worth
because of the hate that
comes and
Oh yeah, the judgment. Yeah, I deserve to follow the spiritual path wherever it takes me. That I truly feel in my passion. I deserve to be passionate, whatever that is.
Yes,
I deserve to be passionate.
And not only that, I deserve to be passionate without punishment.
Oh, nice. Hashtag.
Because we always tend to say, oh, you can have this, but now you got to give up this.
Yeah, thinking the other shoe's going to drop. Yeah. Right.
So if this happened, then something else is going to. And it's if you fully believe that you can, that you love yourself and that that you are worthy of being happy, that you are worthy of being passionate without being limited in some way. Right? Even by your own self-punishment. Then you can be. But I think we punish ourselves if we're happy.
Yeah. And we do. But again, with this though, I want to say that with the business thing, because I've been on the other end of this, be passionate for who you are. Because if you're taking what somebody else is doing in terms of work, that's not self-love. That's, again, shadow rejection. That's saying to yourself, well, what my idea isn't good enough, so I'll just take out of somebody else's basket and I'll sell that. That's self-degradation. That's denying the world your vision, your talent, your whatever it is. And it's not true to being who you are. So again, be passionate. Figure out what it is that makes you you, what drives you, what gives you passionate chills, and do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is that if you are truly passionate about something, the things that you think you have to sacrifice, you're willing to do it anyway. Like,
even if you don't like it.
Well, yeah,
even if you
you're
don't
so
like
passionate about it. But that's different than like punishing yourself as like a preemptive thing. You know what I mean? Like, holding yourself back. That's different than like going, okay, so I want to make a lot of money, but to do that, I'm going to have to use my car, and I'm going to put wear and tear on my car. So that means that I'm giving and taking, right? But at the same time, that's one that you're willing to do because you want to have the money to do whatever. Maybe you want to go on a trip or something. You know what I mean? This is an external example, but this is what I mean. There's a difference between doing that and going, okay, but if I go and get this money, then I have to just like give half of it away. And that can be,
that's spiritual sabotage as well.
That can be good, but it's a sabotage thing. And we can do that internally. I was saying this chair, the hydraulic is broken. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but I might gradually be getting shorter. And I haven't bought another one. The cushion on it is done. I haven't bought another one because I told myself, you know what? Nope, I'm going to make the money through my business only to replace this chair. This is a goal for me. This is a challenge. I think that's healthy. That's a challenge. You're using it as a motivator. But there's a difference between that and punishing yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That sounds like a live chat, Chris. Motivation versus punishment.
That does. Let me write that down.
That's coming next on Joe and Chris live. That's going to be another chat because that we need to talk about in depth. That's good.
Yeah. All right. So chat. You got to do you, boo-boo. Exactly. People have gaslighted me in the past, and I learned to feel unworthy. It's taken over a year to work through it and accept my self-worth.
People can always get to us. Like, it doesn't matter how much shadow work you do. There is always going to be somebody who knows how to push your button. Always. And I don't believe in the analogy of that you must never react and you must never have an emotional response. I think there's a difference between giving somebody a full-blown part of yourself rant versus having an emotional reaction. So you don't have to engage. That's something that's true. But the whole spiritual mentality, you must not have a reaction. I'm like bollocks to that.
That's just what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, have an emotional response, but you don't have to engage with the individual who's caused the emotional response. Sit with the emotional response and see what that is and deal with the shadow that's in there. But yeah.
Yeah, and Snow goes on.
That's what I'm saying about that.
Now I accept I deserve wealth, stability, happiness, friendship, success. Those words are now my friends. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
And again, your joy being rejected by someone else doesn't take away any of your worth.
Yes.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one, but it's very, very true. You have to get to the point where your self-worth is not dependent on external influences. I mean, it's nice when people, compliment you, and if you can learn to accept that and take that for what it is. Oh, I like that, Christina. I deserve to dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are the music makers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. So one last round. Anybody have any questions? And then we're going to get out of here. Because we are at the 2 hour.
God already. These fly by. Right?
I know. But I feel like we get a lot of deep stuff done still, though. Like, we touch on a lot of different areas. I can't wait for the podcast, guys. It's going to be so exciting. Also, for those that aren't on Facebook, the podcast name has been changed to What the Flux.
Because I wanted it.
Yes.
Because I wanted it.
And I also secretly wanted it and was like, ha ha ha, this joke. But for real?
Also, we're going to have little ghost pins because I insist that we have little ghost pins that have WTF on them.
Yes!
Because I want one. Because I want one, and then we'll sell them.
The ghosties are like our minions.
Yes, we have a live chat with Kenzie tomorrow on Kenzie's channel.
Yep, Kenzie Flame, who is in the chat. It's Kenzie Flame. We will be on her channel at, it's 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think it's 1 p.m. Joey's. 1 p.m.
British summertime. Yeah.
So come check us out there. We'll be talking about like pagan acceptance and both like physical communities and like online communities and just in general, that overall topic. You know how we kind of dance around one. So, so yeah, all the lies, all the time. And then we have talked with Jennifer, who does the past lives. We talked about that. Yes, Hodgson. And
we're going to organize that for next
week.
I had to cancel this week because I had some personal stuff come up, but I will find out when Chris is free, when she gets her schedule, and we will post that on mine. I'll share it on mine, and we'll let you guys know when we'll be talking to Miss Jen next week. So yeah, that will be next week, and we'll talk about some paranormal investigations and some past lives.
Yes.
Because that's awesome.
Exciting.
Okay, I think that's it then, guys. Because we haven't had any other questions or anything. So
yeah, looks fine. So I love your faces. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your shadows with us as always. And let's see.
No matter what, you deserve to be your friend. You deserve to be loved.
Yes, exactly. And you deserve to be heard, as Joanna said.
Yep.
You can find my links and Joey's underneath this video. Check us out. Anything else you want to say, Joey?
Remember that you deserve passion without punishment. I think if you only take one thing from this chat, take that.
Hashtag passion without punishment.
Yeah. So, yeah, just to let everybody know, my story is in flux right now because I tried to change the IP address, and apparently this was a really complicated process. So I'm fighting with the tech team to get them to fix it because I've spoken to someone who's sort of an expert, and he says it's the tech team, not me. So I'm fighting to get that sorted out. If not, I will be shifting the store somewhere else, but it will be returning, and I am still taking custom orders in private. So there you go. That's just
if you
the chaos that's happening to me.
Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much it now, I think. All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Love you guys. Love your faces. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully on Kenzie's channel. And that's all I got. Bye. What?
You said hopefully, like hopefully on Kenzie's channel.
No, I mean like hopefully as in hopefully they'll be over there so I can also No, like I'm definitely going to be there, but I don't know if you guys are. Hopefully you guys will be.
Just get your butts on Kenzie's channel tomorrow.
Everyone go on Kenzie's channel. No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're ending this.
Quick.